Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio. Ours is a place where dreams take flight, voices are heard, and stories are shared. This is where cultures meet, connections are formed, and ideas are transformed into action. This is your destination for authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations. We're where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover our world of education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our USA Global TV channel and download our USA Global TV app. Be our guest or join our team. Visit USAglobalTV.com. With heartfelt thanks to our executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, music scored by Yifei Tang from Cloud Road Music, creative direction by Paul Garcia, and I'm Al Cini, and I'm very proud to be part of the USA Global TV and Radio family. So join us here at USA Global TV and Radio. Make us your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication, or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited. Thank you for being a part of our global community. Let's inspire together.
Good afternoon, everyone, and happy Monday. I am Julie Ann Mejia, and you're watching episode 15 of The Holistic Alternative. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome a very special guest whose work beautifully bridges plant-based medicine, cultural sovereignty, and the music industry. This gentleman has made a meaningful impact in the cannabis space, supporting brands with business development and helping to raise awareness around the miraculous healing potential of plant-based medicine. He is also a strong advocate for the Native American community, working to support their sovereignty and expand access to legal, sustainable business practices within their tribes. If that weren't enough, he's been a driving force in marketing events tied to the music world, with some exciting announcements to share today about an upcoming collaboration involving the legendary Wu-Tang Clan. It is my true honor and privilege to welcome Chad James to the show. Chad, thank you so much for being on the show today and taking time out of your busy schedule to be here.
Oh, thank you very much, Julie. I really appreciate you guys having me on and giving me a chance to kind of share some of the stuff we're doing. And, first and foremost, I appreciate what you guys bring to the community and the education you guys bring.
Thank you so much. That means a lot coming from you. I appreciate everything you guys do as well. And I'm so excited to host you today. And let's talk right about how you started working with cannabis and being in the industry. Let's get right into your background.
Of course. I probably started, a lot like a lot of people in the traditional market. Cannabis was um, not status quo for a while and, illegal. So, cannabis was always around cannabis when I was younger. And, I've seen a lot of hard drugs and, different things that have happened to families and people through alcohol. And I just never felt cannabis was that bad. And I felt that, we weren't doing anything bad by, being involved with it. So, that stems long time back, but then I started growing. When I started growing cannabis, I really, started to really get an appreciation for the plant and on a different level and really start to dive into the medicinal benefits and just got a totally different appreciation for it. So when I started growing, we started doing a lot of different cannabis events for marketing some of our brands and getting asked to market for some of these different, dispensaries or help with strategy and planning. And we started to, doing a lot of events is how I got tied into a lot of the music scene. I mean, music seems to go hand in hand with these events. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. It's just been kind of a roller coaster since I get asked to just dive into a lot of different strategic planning for different businesses and help with branding. And, but again, I think growing was, we had a show called the Average Joe Grow Show where we taught people how to grow. And I think that's what got me so connected to the community and stuff was really learning the agricultural part of the plant.
Thank you for sharing that with everyone. I think that's huge and important information for the community because, again, a lot of people see you out in the community, they don't know your background and how you got into it. So, as a cannabis consumer, what did you find, most helpful about the plant and putting it out there to the community and helping with the growing techniques and such?
I think if anybody that is looking into cannabis for medical benefits or goes and uses cannabis, I think growing one plant, even if it's not something that you dive deep into and have a whole facility, I mean, just growing one plant and understand it, just again to reiterate, just really gives you a different appreciation for it. But for me, for cannabis, like you know as a young kid, I did a lot of events, and there was always alcohol involved, and there'd be different things as far as fights and just alcohol just brings so many negative things. And when I would start going to these cannabis events and start having them, I mean, we never once had a problem, and we just the diversity of people that it brought in, and the passion for music and different stuff and the connection is really what stood out to me with cannabis. When you smoke cannabis, you're just there's so many different medicinal values, but for me it's like what makes it recreational versus medicinal. Like recreational use can be medicinal. If somebody's using a Xanax for anxiety or things like that to wind down at the end of the day, or they decide to smoke cannabis instead, at what point is that recreational or medicinal? And to me it's intent. And I think with these events, it's all good intent that comes from the people that go to these events.
No, I couldn't agree more with that sentiment. And again, a lot of people consume, they don't even realize they're consuming for an actual medical purpose, whether
Mhm.
it's, hey, I'm having trouble sleeping, or exactly what you said with the anxiety piece. It can be a multifaceted approach to, not just getting stoned. So I think that's a great point to bring up. And it also leads into our next section, too. So, how did you find an integration between using plant-based medicine in conjunction with bridging it into the music world and community with events?
Well, I think cannabis has a strong tie to music in general, especially, going back to even when these artists are in the studio. I've spent a lot of time in recording studios with different artists, and, it helps enlighten creativity, just relaxes. And there was a time where it was just not accepted, right? And they were hiding this. So I think that's one big reason why a lot of, especially the hip hop artists are really trying to get involved in the cannabis brands because they felt like they were involved. They're kind of the OGs of tying it into, what they do. So I think a lot of the cannabis events too, that age group for some of these artists that, are a little older, um, just kind of that nostalgic vibe. They're just really coming out. They really want to perform at these events, and it was always part of it. You just couldn't really promote it, right? And that's the other thing too. I mean, as far as you still can't promote cannabis in a traditional aspect. So having these events and the music, really helps to do so, and to have brands, gather and display some of their products and talk about it and give education. So I think it's always gone hand in hand with music. I mean, you go back to one of the greats like Bob Marley, right? I mean, you never catch him doing a song without utilizing the plant.
No, I couldn't agree more. And I think, again, having that plant-based connection, it's all vibration. Music is vibrational as
Mhm.
well. I think that's an amazing depiction on how you kind of integrate those both. And I couldn't agree more in regards to the advertisement. Our industry has a number of different barriers into traditional marketing. Let's talk a little bit more about that, how you've been able to kind of get around some of that.
I get around it. I mean, we're still to this day trying to figure out how to get around some of it, right? But I think it's again, creating these events that just have great synergy, and people are just enjoying themselves, and there's no, people passing out, overdosing, alcohol poisoning. It's just all good fun. And I think that then I think the biggest thing is just, really having the education at some of these events too. So like because you have the community and the people that are, already into cannabis, but it's bringing some of these new people who are very curious about it and having them come to the events. We talk about this, a lot as far as there's a lot of people who in the community know so much about cannabis and kind of just assume that everybody else knows, the same lingo and stuff. And then when you bring in some of these people, some of these outsiders, or some people that are just new and curious to it, I mean, having that education there, that's what they're looking for. So I think that's the it's very organic marketing that we always do, right? We're not just really just trying to put it out in your face. It's always about, kind of giving education. Education has probably been my biggest strategy and storytelling, right? We do a lot of, I work on a lot of documentaries and, you asked about the music, doing some of these documentaries for some of these musicians and, talking into cannabis and, for a guy we're working with right now that I'm on a project with is Hellraiser, Sharon Smith, and he was an artist with Wu Tang, and he suffered a brain aneurysm in 2010. So he uses, he's a medical patient, and cannabis helps him in a lot of different ways. So we turned that into a story, creating his album and doing a documentary and talking about and bringing on some of these cannabis brands and talking about how they help him in the state he's in now.
That's amazing. And it's so powerful to have somebody's personalized story with the plant and how it's helping them heal and move forward from a traumatic injury like that. So that's amazing that you're able to help him and share his story with the plant as well. So, you've kind of given a little bit of a background in regards to some of the people you've been working with in the music space. And if you feel comfortable, I know you have some big stuff in the works right now. Why don't we get right into that? Let's talk a little bit about your work with Wu Tang and some of the filming that you've been doing recently.
Of course. That's not a big part of this is I think cannabis has been a huge connector for me. Everybody that I've met, you know, to date right now that I'm doing a lot of business with, even if it's not specifically about cannabis, was brought together because of cannabis. A few years back I met Ghostface Killer, for those who aren't familiar, Dennis Coles. He's a member of Wu Tang Clan, and Wu Tang Clan did a lot for hip hop. Um, as far as bringing it to the stage and just staying true to themselves. And I met them because of cannabis, because we had them at an event and had the sponsored by a dispensary. And then I started doing some work with them and talked to them and went out to Las Vegas to meet them, where I spend probably about half of the year living out in Las Vegas now, because that's kind of taken over a lot of my life. We actually they started doing a residency, so which was the first hip hop residency. And as I started meeting more of the members and their different personalities and how they're involved with cannabis and working with some of their brand collaborations and things, a producer reached out to me about Hellraiser and told me he was doing this story with Hellraiser. And I didn't know Hellraiser and I didn't know his a little bit of his story, but I started digging in deep, and it's a really touching inspirational story. So he hadn't seen any. He was signed by Wu Tang, which RZA is the guy, who pretty much he's the godfather of Wu Tang. He produced it, ran it. Anybody who hasn't seen the show on Hulu, the Wu Tang Saga, I recommend watching it. It shows what they've done for music and tells a lot of their story. But he was signed by Wu Tang, and he was a very big up and coming artist. He was in a group, Sons of Man, and then again in 2010 he had a brain aneurysm. So this is a guy who thought he'd never be working with these guys again, or never on the stage, or just just taking for granted a lot of the things that he used to be able to do, right? And he was they thought he was in a coma for some time, and they didn't think he would ever walk and talk again. So miraculously, he did start walking, talking, and rehabilitating. And he was left paralyzed in his left side. But when the producer reached out to me and said that they were making an album, they had some recorded verses from some of these members, and he had asked me, "Hey, do you think do you think you could get some actual verses from these guys?" And I said, "Yeah, I could reach out to them, but if we're gonna do it, I think we film it." And there was already a story on Hellraiser, which is called Risen, the story of Sharon Smith, which you can watch on Tubi and some other platforms. So that talks about his whole incident and the brain aneurysm. But what we're doing is it kind of left off of where he's at now, and now we're doing more of him getting back into music, reconnecting with his Wu-Tang family, and one by one. They were really excited to know that he was walking again and where he was at. So they started doing verses. We've got some really good footage of them recording with him. We took him to the residency show. We were just on, went to a couple of their shows, was on their tour, and he was able to reconnect with some of these guys, and the story's really, really coming together. And it's been great. It's been really inspirational. Like some of the things that we thought at the beginning, I mean, we had a vision for it, but now it's really all coming together. So it's really incredible.
That's amazing stuff that you guys are working on. And again, his story is so passionate. I am well aware of the crew. They're amazing people. I know Jimmy and Nate. So it's an honor and privilege to talk with you as well, that you're trying to help and support them. So that's great. When can people expect or be able to check some of the footage out that you guys have been filming?
So we are going to be putting some. The full documentary won't be ready for a little bit, just because we have so much more to cover. But we will be letting out small glimpses of it. And one thing that we did to help tell Hellraiser's story and start letting some stuff out early is we brought him on as a co-host of a show Table Talk that I was working on. So now he's able to come on and talk about a lot of the different stuff in cannabis and how cannabis has helped him, and bringing these different guests out who have cannabis brands, some of these artists and musicians. So we'll be, playing some B-roll of some of the footage of things we've got, and a couple of his tracks that we just got done with a couple of the members will be released in probably less than a month. So we will have some footage and some videos. We're going to kind of start releasing stuff slowly in a different type of strategy before we release the whole documentary, and we'll kind of start doing some small clips of the old documentary too, so people can understand his story.
That's amazing. I'm so excited to, you know, watch this grow and check this out when it comes out. So
Thank you.
that's incredible. Thank you for the important work that you're doing, especially to share his story of his comeback. So that's amazing. Who else has partaken on his new album, if you're able to share some of that? I know people are probably excited to hear.
There's going to be a lot of people, and a lot of surprises. The two first songs we have coming out, we will have something coming out with Inspector Deck and Big Nate. And we will also have Capadonna is on the track. We've been in talks with some of the members now. I think that there's going to be a lot of surprises and a lot of people that are going to be coming on the album. A lot of well-known artists, and part of that OG era, if you will.
Awesome. That's so exciting, and it gives people a lot to look forward to. So we're all excited to hear about that. You talked a little bit about spending some time out on the West Coast, and I really want to get into talking a little bit more because it's not a topic discussed enough about tribal sovereignty and supporting the Native American community in regards to keeping their legalities and safe access to plant-based medicines, not only cannabinoids, but other plant-based medicines such as, peyote and ayahuasca and stuff like that. We'd love to hear a little bit about what you've been working on with the community, if you feel comfortable sharing.
Yeah, of course. A lot of people ask me what exactly it is I do, and I think we've narrowed it down to kind of strategy and integration, because there's so many components, right? There's the cultivation part of things, but there's also the music, and there's also the production and events is a big part of what I do. So as I said before, I do a lot through storytelling. Through my travels, through a producer, I met a woman named Lindy Rapp. And Lindy Rapp is very active in the Native American community. She's also a board member of John Hopkins, a board member of Mayo Clinic, board member of Native American Indian Finance. She's very active and she's done a lot within the Native community. So she was interested in some of the things, I was doing, and started asking me to work alongside of her on some projects. So recently we were at the Reservation Economics Summit, and we did an event called Raise Rock, which Raise Rocks was actually to, grab to basically do a collaboration of artists and do some storytelling. And we've also been working with them on a beverage which is called choke cherry. Choke cherry is a berry that's been used by the Native Americans for years. It has crazy amount of medicinal benefits, anti-diabetic properties. It's really, really an incredible berry that is just not really out there, but is really known by the Native Americans. And what we found that there's a lot of studies done on its different uses and the antioxidants and the respiratory effects it has. But there's never really been studies combined with cannabinoids, and some of these cannabinoids have similar benefits that can coexist. So right now we have a really good medical team, different PhDs and things on it that are just helping do studies with this beverage that we're coming up with that is a complete wellness beverage. With the Native American communities, it's work out here on the East Coast, and then you go as far as the West Coast, and some of cannabis is pretty far along, but I mean it's still new. But when you go into the Midwest, like places like South Dakota or Montana or Minnesota, it's very, very new. So some of these tribes are trying to get ahead of the game, and trying to establish this stuff for economic development on their reservations. The big problem is there is and has always been a big problem in the Native American communities with alcoholism, drug addiction, and things like that. So a lot of the elders in the community see it as another opportunity. What we've been working on is really showing how it's, instead of a problem, it can be a solution. It can create economic development, and taking some of these concepts of these events, like we were talking about in music, and bringing them into the Native American communities to help with, create. Lynn's objective her whole life has been to create jobs and opportunities. So, cannabis can do just that, and especially tying it into these events and this music scene. I mean, there's a lot of younger Native American individuals that would love to get into music. And so it consists of like hiring them as stagehands, having this whole vocational program, and really supporting mental health. Because at the end of the day, the drug addiction and the alcohol all stems from mental health problems, right? So we're really trying to stay true to that, and just create these programs to help lead the way and allow them to get vocational and educational training on some different side, and just be part of something fun. Not all the kids want to lay bricks anymore and things, right? Or work in casinos.
Of
So
course.
that's been a big thing that we've been establishing.
That's awesome. And, there is such a need for significant support for the Native American community because of all the trauma that was invoked, unfortunately, through colonialism. So no one ever talks about that. That's a big issue. And again, we have tribal people that were connected with plants for thousands and thousands of years. Now they're being colonized. They're being told, hey, you can't use these anymore. Have
Mm.
you seen any type of education program amongst the tribes to kind of reassert and reaffirm some of these deeper connections that have been lost from colonization?
Yeah, so a group that's been doing a great job, and that I've now partnered with, is the ICIA, which is the Indigenous Cannabis Industry Association, and
Okay.
they do a great job of all that, and just creating groups and educational platforms, and talking about not just cannabis but wellness in general, hemp. So we just did a call.
And we lost him. So hopefully we'll get back to him in a moment here. But that's a huge topic matter discussion, especially amongst the Native American tribes, is the disconnect from indigenous plants that have been used for centuries by tribal members. Um, Chad is putting together a beautiful work connotation with ICIA. As he was describing, this organization helps bridge and connect Native American tribes and people with indigenous plants such as cannabis and some of the other stuff. So um, that's a great point. Hopefully, we can get Chad back on here in a moment and wrap up everything with him because it's a really interesting stuff we want to get back into and discussing some of his shows and his podcasts as well. He's doing some work with Cannabis Radio Network right now, which is exciting. They do a lot of beautiful content. They work with Average Joe Grow. Joe actually gets deep and dives into some of the components of the most healthy uh, circumstances on how to grow the plant properly, because there are a lot of things that can go wrong during the growing process, mold development, improper curing techniques, that kind of thing that can really upset the balance in the respiratory system, or not even flushing the plant correctly at the end of the cycles before you harvest can be a huge deterrent on the quality of the flower that patients are consuming. So that's a beautiful show that they're putting together and that they host on a regular basis to give educational purposes around growing. The other show that he does is the Table Talk Toke show, which he kind of described a little bit earlier, and having some of these music experiences, coming on and really just sharing their stories. So hopefully we can get Chad back on here in a moment. He was having, yep, there we go. Chad, thanks.
Really,
Welcome
I'm
back.
very, very sorry. I'm on
Oh
the
my
road
God.
here. I'm on the road, so some of my Wi-Fi and connection might have just lost. I really do apologize.
Oh, no worries at all. I was just telling the audience, about how it's such an important topic matter amongst the tribes. And then I got into some of your other stuff. You're also a podcast host as well. Let's talk a little bit about your work with Cannabis Radio Network.
Yeah, Cannabis Radio Network with my partner Jake Ganum. I mean, that has been what we've been doing for quite some time, and that's what started all this and evolved. Jake and I have been putting on a lot of events. We do educate a lot of education. We had a show, Average Joe Grow, we were doing for a while, which will be coming out with some more episodes and just teaching the plant education and teaching people how to grow and grow this beautiful plant, at home. And just we ran that show for a while, and that's what really brought us really connected with the community. Cannabis Radio Network is always the vision has always been to stem and collaborate with other shows and just help production and do a bunch of events and just really really assist the community in cannabis education. So
No, I think that's amazing. And it's super important. I was just telling guests that, you know, not flushing the plant correctly, not putting it in the right environment where there's mold development. There's a number of things that can go wrong. So, from an educational standpoint and safety standpoint, those are huge programs that need to be explored more and talked about openly
mhm.
amongst our industry. Because the smallest thing could just haywire everything, especially if you're talking about vulnerable patients that have issues with, autoimmune functionality or breathing issues, that kind of thing. So the smallest tweak that's, not conducive to their, health can be a huge downfall to raising your own plants, right?
Yeah, and there's a very big misunderstanding with a lot of of course we always want things to be organic, but as long as some of the process is natural and clean as well. I mean, there is scientific evidence like the plant can distinguish where the mineral comes from, but it's all that there is, like, for example, like veganic, right? Veganic can essentially be organic because veganic means non-living, so a lot of people are using veganic nutrients now. But yeah, to your point, I mean, I think growing a plant and understanding how that plant develops and the different nutrients that it takes, it's a lot of there's a lot of synergy between that and life and the human body, right? As far as environment and nutrients that it uptakes. So we've always been big advocates for that, and we play pay close attention to, some of the, because there's great cultivators out there, that sell in dispensaries and in the new market. But there's also some that are, that we don't believe in their practices. So I think the only way to really understand it is by growing cannabis a little bit yourself.
Absolutely. No, I think those are great points. And, that kind of leads into my next thought, right? So, in regards to some of the newer events that you're putting together, I know MJ BizCon in Vegas is coming up. You guys are starting to think about how we get the community together, obviously, to talk about growing and other pertinent issues within our space. Those are the
Yes.
biggest things and how we get together, right? Is to talk about it. So, what are you guys planning for MJ BizCon if you feel like sharing some of the stuff that
Yeah,
you're
no,
doing?
I definitely do. And that's kind of where I think where I cut off, where I was leaving. So the ICIA, the Indigenous Cannabis Industry Association, they really liked, we've met up a couple different times at some different conferences. I've spoke on a few different panels, and we just did this event at the Reservation Economic Summit. We called it Res Rocks. I was talking about that, and they really liked what we put together. So they asked for me to work with them on all the creative and coming up with MJ Business. So what they're actually doing is they're actually creating an indigenous village. So there's going to be a lot of these different tribal brands in that indigenous village. We'll be putting having traditional Native American ceremonies, and it's not just for Native American brands. I mean, you can become a partner with the ICIA and actually work alongside some of these indigenous brands. And for me, it's very interesting with the indigenous brand because we look at this stuff state by state, and how we might not agree with how some of the stuff is being regulated. I think that the Native Americans are in a unique opportunity to gain control of that and do that right, and put out a lot of the education and create sovereignty for themselves through this plant.
No, I couldn't agree more. And again, after everything the community's been through the native tribes, I think it's really a key point to talk about in regards to protecting their connection with plant-based medicines.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, there's again, the ICIA has done a great job doing that, and they keep bringing in partners, such as myself and my team, and people like yourself, that they're welcoming in just to help spread the education of things.
Absolutely. I'm happy to talk with them and see what I can do to support. And again, we appreciate everything. We're getting close to the 40-minute mark here.
It goes by fast, huh?
It does go by fast, and it's been awesome to talk with everything. And we got about 8 minutes left, but I want to make sure that people listening today internationally, if they want to get in contact with you, they want to check out some of the stuff that you're doing, what's the best way for you to connect with the public?
So, I mean, if Facebook and Instagram, I think you guys had my handles there. Is you know, the Chad James on Instagram and Chad James on Facebook. Also, you can check out our podcast, Table Talk or Cannabis Radio Network, which we do a lot of on Cannabis Radio Network on Facebook. We also have cannabisradionetwork.com. And yeah, all those handles that you have on is a great way to get in contact or shoot me an email. You know.
Awesome. No, that's great. And we didn't get to talk too much about Table Talk. Let's close the show a little bit. Tell us a little bit more. What kind of guests do you guys have on that? Is it just music people, industry people? What do you typically talk about? Let's talk about that show.
So Table Talk's a little more of a fun show, right? And it was something so I could integrate a lot of the music guests and things to get them involved. And it's not just about cannabis, it's not just about music. We kind of got the idea because a lot of times you'd be sitting with some friends and you'd be toking, right? And you'd sit at a table and then these different stories would come up, and we just start getting into different detail about different stuff. And I said, hey, it would be great to do a show like this. So we brought Sharon Smith Hellraiser on as a special co-host for some episodes, and it's been allowing us to bring different guests. We're also bringing some different indigenous guests on there to talk about. So it's not it's not one thing, right? We're bringing a ton of different guests, and definitely it's definitely the collaboration between music and cannabis that you will find on that.
That's awesome. I love that you guys are doing that. I love that there's a bridge because again, music is such an important part of society and connecting people. And cannabis is another thing that connects everybody. I think it's a very uh, connecting substance, right? It calms everything. You never
100%.
see people fighting on cannabis, right? Like
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
it's
there's
a very
not many concerts that you're at that people won't be, won't be smoking or indulging in cannabis, right?
Exactly. No, so Chad, we didn't catch your email. Do you want to just repeat that for the public so in case they want to reach out and send you an email?
100%. So
Cool.
Chad at cannabisradionetwork.com.
Okay, perfect. And Chad, is there anything else you want to tell and share with the community before we log off for today's episode? I give you the floor to kind of close it out, my friend.
Big thing is I just want to advocate for people as far as if you're really trying to learn cannabis. I mean, I think growing can be a little overwhelming for people, but I encourage people to dive into it. I really think that'll help you get a different appreciation for the plant, as I said through this a lot, and also attend some of these events. MJ BizCon. You can look into the stuff we're doing with ICIA. You can find that on their page, ICIA.com. I will be putting some, if you follow my pages, I will be putting a lot of promo up on that, but we will have a ton of different educational speakers through that and just creating a whole experience for people. So I would encourage people again, grow some cannabis to learn more about it, and also just follow some of our pages to dive into some of this, dive into the plant a little deeper.
So if people want to reach out too, you also do consulting in the space, right? You help with a number of facets of business, growing, that kind of stuff. Uh, what,
100%.
what can you tell people a little bit about your consulting stuff if they need support in a couple areas?
I think the biggest thing is we've really made sure we've built a great team. I've got people that specialize in different areas, and I've been kind of the guy that connects that and helps put that together. With my vast background, but we can help with cultivation, we can help with brand activation, marketing, different strategy, tying into community social media handles. So we can help with all aspects. We've really built a team, also medical professionals. Just a really strategy and integration is what we really focus on in cannabis.
Awesome. No, I appreciate that. And, I know this was a lot for you to do. You just got off tour with Wu-Tang. How many states and stuff did you travel through to be here today?
Man, I've been living on a plane probably this past year, so I've been all over the place. But we just came back from the East Coast stuff, which was Philly, New York, Boston, and New Jersey, that whole area. So that's we spent some time in Connecticut. Hellraiser lives out in Connecticut, so that was it was a little East Coast traveling recently. But we'll be back out to the West Coast. I have some time coming out where I got to go to some of the reservations out in Montana, Minnesota, South Dakota. So I will be back on the road on the other side of the country soon. But again, I do encourage people that, MJ BizCon, the Indigenous Village, is going to be really something different this year that we're bringing to the table. And yeah, so I encourage people to go to check some of that stuff out.
That sounds amazing. Thank you so much for the important work that you're doing, not only for the Native American community, but just our community in general, for patients and all the advocacy that you're doing to try to bring awareness to this plant and to try to help people procure their businesses. So thank you for everything that you do. It's an honor and a privilege to host you today. I know I speak for myself and the community that we're very much looking forward to seeing the album that you guys come out with and some of the footage that you've been taking. So thank you again for everything. And it was a true honor and a privilege to have you today.
I appreciate you very much, Julie. Thank you.
Thanks so much. All right, everyone. That is our beautiful show for the day. And we're going to have another amazing guest in a few weeks. Thank you to everyone. And please be kind and passionate to each other. And have a beautiful rest of the day and week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Your love and support now and always. Much love and appreciation. Have a great rest of the day. Take care.
In a world Craving connection. One platform dared to dream bigger. USA Global TV and Radio, a beacon for global voices, authentic storytelling, and elevated listening. Led by visionary Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, the journey from a spark to a global force is now captured in one inspiring book. Honored with YouTube's Silver Creator Award for surpassing 100,000 subscribers. Discover the evolution, the challenges, the triumphs, and the unstoppable spirit that created a global movement. Executive producer Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang. Creative director Paul Garcia. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication, or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited. Now an Amazon #1 new release in paperback and ebook. Broadcasting brilliance, the evolution of USA Global TV and Radio is inspiring readers around the world. Join the movement that's redefining global media one story at a time. Get ready to wear the brand that's changing the world of media. Introducing the official USA Global TV and Radio online store. From our TV show hosts to our incredible global guests, you asked, we delivered. Rep your appearance with pride. Whether you've been on air, hosted a show, or tuned in, we have something just for you. Visit us at USAglobalTVRadioShop.myspreadshop.com and start shopping today. Check back frequently. We're dropping fresh new designs all the time. Showcase your role in our global community. These designs celebrate your voice, your story, your presence. It's more than just merchandise. It's a movement of hope, inspiration, education, and elevated listening. Head to USAglobalTVRadioShop.myspreadshop.com. Your spotlight awaits. USA Global TV and Radio. Elevate your style. Elevate the world.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honored to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at USAglobalTV.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USAglobalTV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dies. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit USAglobalTV.com to view our full terms and conditions.